you got to be ready, because it could happen to you. You never know. All of a sudden, somebody could ask you the most innocent question, and things can just get blown up out of proportion. And maybe you've seen this happen. You've seen this happen on the TV, where somebody's asked very pointed questions about a situation. The person answering says, well, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Somebody else did that. You say, well, we have records of you doing that. Well, then those records are wrong. But they're certified by accountants all the way through. What happened to the money? I don't know what happened to the money. Money's gone. Now maybe the guy took the money. On the other hand, maybe he didn't, and he just really blew his big public speaking opportunity. Now that's the big picture. That's if you're a huge CEO, you're doing something that gets all messed up and you're in the middle of it. And that can happen. But more likely, somebody asks you questions about something, business, work, personal, and you don't quite answer it the right way, and afterwards they look at you like, yeah, I'll bet. You know something, don't you? You know more than you told there. Yeah, you're hiding something. I know you're hiding something. People give you that look. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're honest with me. You're being honest with me. Well, if you've ever been in a situation like that, where somebody asks you an unexpected question, or a potentially embarrassing question, then you know that you really have to be spot on. You have to be ready, because it can happen. And yeah, maybe you're guilty of sin. You did horrible things and that's it, and you're just going to get caught and you're getting your comeuppance and that's all there is to it. Or maybe you did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. You just aren't answering in a way that makes people believe that you're innocent. And that happens a lot. Because everybody out there, and maybe you've had experienced this, they aren't always in your corner. Especially in business. Some people, it looks really good for them if they can make you look bad because it makes them look good. These are the people who believe as long as they're pushing you down, other people are floating up. Further down you go, the higher they go. Maybe you know people like that. Have you seen people like that? Well, that happens. That can be a disaster. Absolute disaster. And it usually happens because people don't know how to speak. They get in that situation of thinking, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And those people also think, that'll never happen to me. I'll never be in a situation like that. I don't have to worry about it. Well, the people today worrying about it probably thought the same thing. They thought, I'll never be in a situation like that. So when it came up, they just weren't ready. So today is all about speaking like a pro. That's P-R-O. The three things when you're asked a question out of nowhere, and you've got to come up with a professional, rational, good answer. An answer where people say things like, oh, that was very professionally answered. It was a good answer, yes. It did well for their profession. Speaking like a pro, as opposed to speaking like a walking disaster. People afterwards say, whoa, that didn't go well for him at all, did it? Didn't go well for her at all. That was awkward. That was awkward. You don't want to be the one people are saying that was awkward about. So So to speak like a pro, there are 3 things you gotta know. The first thing is something that's very difficult when you're in a pressure situation. When you're in a pressure situation, you will not want to do this. In fact, everything in your body will tell you, don't do this. Don't do this. Just do the opposite. And the problem is when you do the opposite, when you don't have that P, it's so important. Don't have that P, then all of a sudden things just get worse and worse and worse. And the more you don't have that P, the worse and worse they get. Once you start putting that P in there, then things start coming together. And you start looking more like a pro. Because using that P is a simple thing, an easy thing to do, but you have to resist your natural instincts. And the P is simply to remember to pause. You're asked a question you didn't expect. Always remember to pause before answering it. Remember, there are no bonus points for answering the question quickly. Just because somebody says, hey, what were you doing over in the accounting department there? That's not your regular place. Were you around the accounting books? Did I see you writing stuff down in them? You weren't. Why were you doing that? Now, your tendency is to say, well, no, I wasn't there at all. I was somewhere else. I was doing, well, what was I doing? I was doing something else. Don't do that. Makes you look like one of those walking disasters. You don't want to look like that. Instead, pause. So the very first thing you should say if you're asked a question you didn't expect, a weird question, you're not sure quite where it came from or why, is just, that's the first answer. Pause. Pausing is so important because what so much happens is that when you are quickly answering a question, maybe you got all the facts in hand, or maybe you're simply saying whatever occurs to your mind first. And that's not always a good thing. Sometimes the things that pop into your head really aren't things that help you, especially if you're panicking or you're nervous. So remember to pause. You might be thinking, well, wait a minute, Tim, if I'm in a high-pressure situation, how do I pause? What do I do? How do I make sure I'm pausing? Well, one simple way to make sure you're pausing is to take a breath. Just breathe in, breathe out. That's it. Breathe in and breathe out. Once you breathe in and breathe out, then you're pausing. Then you're relaxing. Then you're slowing down enough that you can actually get your mind working. The problem happens, you ask it quickly, you're like, bam, 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 poof. Your mind isn't fast enough. It doesn't get it. It can't really pick up. And what happens is your mind skips. And the place where your mind skips are often referred to later as lies. You can't just say, oh, my mind skipped. No, they'll say, you lied. You don't want that. So pause, think it through what you're going to say, and then say that. So you're asked an unexpected question, remember to pause before you're going to say anything. So that lets your mind settle down. In a high-pressure situation, maybe your mind goes like this, bang, you just rattle it all off, everything's great. But if you're really in a high-pressure situation, your blood pressure is spiking, you're freaking out, you're thinking, I don't know how I got into this, I don't know where this question came from, I wasn't there, I swear I didn't do anything. That's what your mind is screaming at you to say. Don't. Just pause. Relax. Instead say something different. Now, there is something that many people do after they pause that's a mistake. That's an important mistake. If you're asked a question, pausing is great. But after you pause, very important to do the are thing next. All right, story so far. You've had an unexpected question delivered to you. And you're just kind of struck. And in your head, you're thinking, well, I don't know what to do. I mean, this could affect my job. It could affect my credibility. It could affect how people perceive me. It could be something to do with legal things. I don't know what to do in this situation. What do I do? But the good news is you paused. Instead of blurting all that out and sounding like a guilty, crazy person, you paused. Let you collect your thoughts. That's the P. Now the R in the pro, in speaking like a pro, answering like a pro, is very important. Often it's forgotten, but it's very important. And the R is to remember to rephrase. Rephrase. Because quite often questions will be put to you in such a way as the answers the person expects to get. If somebody thinks you're guilty at doing something, the question's not going to be phrased in such a way as if you answer it, you sound innocent. They're going to phrase it in such a way when you answer it, you sound guiltier. Or they want you to talk about something that you don't really want to talk about. They'll phrase the question in such a way to try to force you to talk about that thing. Now, it probably is not going to be as direct as, why are you guilty? Or, how guilty are you? Probably won't be that direct, but there will be some sort of shading of it. So people say, well, I saw you in the accounting department and you were at the accounting ledger. Why were you forging accounts there? Well, the last thing you want to do is say, well, the reason I was forging accounts was, that's illegal, could cost you your job, and hopefully you weren't forging accounts at all. So rephrase, say it a different way. Something like, you're asking me about what I was doing at the accounts ledger. What I was doing at the accounts ledger was, I was filling in accounts at the request of the accountant who couldn't be there at the time, and he gave me a list of things to fill in, exactly where to put them into the accounting ledger, and I simply filled them in and dated them and made a note that I had been copying them in at the request of somebody else. Now, maybe you get in trouble because you weren't supposed to be copying things in, but at least it's much better than I was forging because. So rephrase. If you've got a leading question, if you've got a question that's leading you down the wrong path, stay away from that question and rephrase. And it's simple to do. Pretty much it's a good rule for any question you're asked. If you pause, to make sure you rephrase it in a different way, or even rephrase the same thing. Sometimes some people suggest that you say, well, what I hear you're asking is, get confirmation that that's actually what they're asking for. Yes, that's what I'm asking for, and then go through that. So what I hear you're asking is what I'm doing at the ledger. The person says, yes, okay, what were you doing at the ledger? Okay, what I was doing at the ledger was, so rephrasing can also help to clarify. Sometimes people ask you very confusing questions, or they ask you questions that have so many different meanings. If you just guess at what that meaning is, it could be a disaster. So rephrase. Before you rephrase it, maybe say, what I hear you saying is, and then get them to agree. Yes, no, it's not what I'm saying this. Okay, what I can hear you now saying is, may seem a little bit awkward, kind of like a weird tennis match. You're just kind of hitting these phrases back and forth. I hear you saying is, no, I'm not saying is. Oh, now I hear you saying is. But it's really important to understand what the question is and to phrase it in such a way that it gets the truth out at the same time as not making you into any trouble or any difficulty. So okay, that's the P and the R of questioning like a pro. Last thing is the O. And that may be the toughest thing for people to do. All right, our story so far, you paused, which is great. You've had a difficult question just thrown at you out of nowhere. You paused to make sure you're ready for that. And then, because you're smart, you rephrased it. So you got that thing rephrased, no problem. This is what the question really is. Great, what I hear you saying is, you've rephrased that. So you got the P and the R. Now to have really question like a pro, answer questions like a pro, it's important you get the O there. Oops. Okay, now you're smart. You're doing this thing the right way. You're answering questions like a pro. You paused. Really important. You pause. You make sure you've got that pause in there. That's going great. That's wonderful. Now you pause. Fantastic. And you've even rephrased. You've rephrased that question in such a way that people are going to understand, okay, that's the question you're answering. And you don't make yourself sound guilty or bad and just be simply answering a question. Because you rephrased it to take any sting out of it and to make sure that that's the question they were asking. You've rephrased it in such a way that it really works. Now the last thing is the O. And that's the thing many people don't get right. And because they don't get it right, then they get into all sorts of problems. Once you get the O right, you're well on your way to answering very difficult questions in a way that's going to work out for you. And the O is simply remain on subject. On subject. And this can be very difficult for people to do. Because your brain is just screaming at you, I'm innocent, I didn't do any of this stuff. And so you just want to babble all the different ways that you're innocent. I was nowhere near that, I didn't touch that, I didn't see that, I didn't feel that. But a lot of that has nothing to do with the question asked. So if you're asked specifically a question about, example here is accounting, some sort of accounting situation, talk about that, great. Fantastic. Talk about accounting. Not a time to talk about some other task you were engaged in. I wasn't even doing it. I was somewhere else doing. No. Remain on subject. Somebody asks you a question about something, answer those questions. And if the questions start to veer off on something else, which can happen, people start to kind of explore and get out there and say, okay, think you were to ask me a question about this accounting situation. I'm answering as best as I can. Here's what's going on with the accounting. Now, if they do want to talk about a different situation, that's fine, but let them bring it up. Let them bring it up. So if you're in a situation and you've got to answer some sort of a problem or something somebody said, and so-and-so saw that you were speaking nastily to this other person, were you speaking nastily to them? And you now paused, you've rephrased. Okay, and there was something also about you were coming in late before, and then there was something about you missed some sort of, and just pull it back. See, sorry, I think we're speaking about how I was talking to that person. And that's what this is about, right? How I was talking to the person. Again, kind of confirmation. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Okay. Great. Here's how I was talking to the person. Because when people are doing that blame thrower thing, or when they're starting to feel like they should be doing that blame thrower thing, okay, whose fault is it, whose fault is it, and that blame thrower starts to go out there, they just start throwing it all over the place. But you don't want to get involved anywhere near that blame thrower. So if you're in a situation where you're being asked these sort of a question by somebody, just make sure you remain on subject. Okay, this is the subject we're talking about. This is the subject I'm answering. This is the situation. That's what's going on. And again, going back to the TV, you've seen this happen many times before. Some CEO starts talking about whatever's going on, and they wander off to some other different subject, and people say, whoa, you're doing that too? Oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. And pretty soon it's like, well, yeah. Now, if the guy's guilty, okay, hey, they're guilty, fine. But if they're not guilty and they're just stupid up there, and that happens too, well, they still look bad. And if you do that, you look bad. Don't want that to happen. Remain on subject. Yes, pausing is going to help you out a lot, no question about it. And certainly rephrasing is a great way to go. But if you wander off the subject and you start volunteering all this other stuff going on, you're just getting yourself in deeper and deeper and deeper. Because whoever's hitting you, they think they've got something. Remain on subject, on target, and you can get through even the most difficult questions. If you're in a high-pressure question situation, then you know it can be difficult to know what to do. Your blood starts to pump, your heart starts to pound, you start breathing heavily, you start sweating. Even if you're innocent, you still feel like you're guilty. If you're completely innocent, you're still thinking, well, maybe it's something I did wrong, whatever, and you're just kind of freaking out. Remember, answer those questions like a pro. First of all, pause. Pause. Just take a break. Take a breath. It'll give your thoughts a chance to settle down. A little bit of time. If you just start spinning out whatever's coming through your mind like this and like that, your mind skips. You start telling lies or exaggerating something or not really getting on to the point. Well, that's not good. Just pause. It's okay. There's no time limit on this thing. Yes, you have to answer. No, you don't have to answer immediately. In fact, the smoother, the calmer, the more relaxed and paused your answers, the better off you are in high-pressure question situations. So pause, collect yourself. It's all right. The questioner will wait. You can deal with the wait yourself, and you need the wait yourself. All right, once you got the pause, then comes the R. The R of acting like a pro. Answering questions like a pro. And that is to rephrase. Rephrase. Somebody thinks you did something, or they're trying to convince you that somebody else that you did something. They will ask you questions that are loaded, that have all sorts of things in them. You just answer the question, well, the reason I stole that was because you're in trouble. You're done. You're finished. So rephrase. The reason I had that was because, and then explain what the whole reason was. Rephrase. And sometimes just simple as saying, what I hear you saying is. And then the other person saying, no, and then, well, I hear you saying now is. And then back and forth. Once you get agreement, then you answer. Rephrase. And then finally, the most important thing in answering questions like a pro, stay on subject. Stay on subject. It's so easy when you're in those high-pressure situations to freak out and think, I gotta say this, I gotta say that. Your mind is going like crazy. You're just completely freaking out and thinking, I don't know what to do. It's all right. It's okay. If you stay on subject. You pause. You rephrase. Your mind is settling down. Just make sure they're calling you in for one purpose. That's what they're going to talk about. That's what it is. Got questions about one thing, one incident, that's what you talk about. Entirely focused on that. Because if you're innocent, you don't want to make people think you're guilty because you're just rambling on all these sort of different things. And the more off subject you get, the guiltier you look. So stay on subject. And then once you start doing that, once you start understanding the importance of pause, rephrasing, staying on subject, even in those high-pressure question situations, you don't need to freak out. Whether you're a speaker speaking on stage, whether you're in front of your boss, whether in front of some personal situation, you don't need to freak out, no matter how high-pressured it gets, because you're in control. You're ready to go. And when that happens, you look better. You look more like an innocent person, more like an honest person, more like a together person. And if the other person is just the crazy person attacking you, they look like the crazy person, not you. Quickly, you start solving these questions, issues. Quite often it's because of misunderstanding. Somebody thought something was going on. That's not what happened. Pause, rephrase, stay on subject, and very quickly these problems go away. And that's the process. Pause, rephrase, stay on subject. Make sure that pause, rephrase, stay on subject. Keep doing that and you're fine. And then you get a stress-free life, you get more relaxed, high-pressure situations don't bother you as much, you live a longer lifespan. It's just a lot better. So if you're in that situation where difficult questions come up, whatever they are, your speaker, your professional life, your personal life, just remember to answer those questions like a pro.